World War I is remembered as a tragic inevitability, a chain reaction, a sleepwalk into catastrophe. The assassination at Sarajevo, alliances activating, mobilization schedules, Europe collapsing into war. But in hidden history, the secret origins of the First World War, Gerry Docherty and MacGregor argue that this familiar narrative is not only incomplete, but fundamentally misleading. The authors open with an extremely provocative claim that what most people believe about the origins of the war is, in their words, a deliberately concocted lie. Their contention is not simply that historians have made mistakes, but that the official story of 1914 was shaped, from the beginning, to assign blame in a particular direction. The verdict of Versailles. The starting point for hidden history is the settlement after the war. The Treaty of Versailles declared that Germany bore responsibility, and the authors argue that this verdict became the foundation of modern memory. In their telling, Versailles did not simply end the conflict, it fixed the interpretation. According to Docherty and MacGregor, the effect was that Germany became understood as the primary aggressor, while the deeper imperial and diplomatic rivalries of Europe were simplified into a morality play. They argue that this narrative became embedded not only in popular consciousness, but even in subsequent historiography. The point for them is not that Germany was innocent, but that the allocation of sole guilt served political purposes. Against the sleepwalker's story. Many modern historians emphasize miscalculation, that Europe stumbled into war through misunderstanding, rigidity, and fear. Docherty and MacGregor reject this framing. They explicitly argue that the world was not sleepwalking. Instead, they claim that the war was the result of deliberate preparation. They write that Britain and Europe were not drifting unconsciously, but were ambushed by forces operating behind the scenes. This is a major shift. World War I was not as accident, but as design. Not as inevitability, but as management. The secret elite thesis. The most distinctive claim in hidden history is the idea of what the authors call a secret elite. Docherty and MacGregor argue that a small network of influential men in London, operating through informal institutions and private circles, shaped British foreign policy towards war. They describe this as a kind of hidden governing stratum, not accountable to the public, and largely invisible in conventional narratives. The authors go further. They claim that this network had roots in an actual secret society founded in 1891, linked to imperial strategist Cecil Rhodes. They connect this to the historian Carroll Quigley, who describes a Rhodes-centered group seeking imperial federation and Anglo-American unity. For Docherty and MacGregor, the purpose of this discussion is to argue that empire was not only a matter of formal government, but of elite continuity, that institutions outside Parliament, outside democratic oversight, could guide national destiny. This, they suggest, is the hidden architecture behind 1914. At its core, hidden history is attempting to reframe the origins of the Great War, not as a single nation crime, not as an unavoidable accident, but as the consequence of imperial strategy, elite networks, and deliberate geopolitical calculation. Whether one accepts the author's conclusions fully or not, their book presses a question that cannot be ignored. How much of modern war is truly inevitable, and how much is shaped by institutions that persist beyond public awareness. They are asking us to look past the surface spark, Sarajevo, and toward the deeper structures, imperial competition, strategic planning, alliance engineering, elite coordination, and the manufacture of consent for war. This is not merely a debate about blame. It is a debate about how history is remembered and how catastrophes are explained. So the thesis of hidden history is bold. The authors argue that the official history of World War I was constructed, that Germany was assigned guilt as political necessity, and that British imperial networks played a far deeper role than is acknowledged. In future videos we can examine the evidence they present, where their argument is the strongest, where it is most controversial, and what this reinterpretation means for understanding war itself. Because if the Great War was not inevitable, if it was shaped, if it was managed, then the lesson is not merely about 1914. It is about the machinery that makes catastrophe possible, and that machinery has not disappeared. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more videos.